that is supposed to replicate the recombinant DNA for you. Some of them will not be transferred. They will not have the plasmid and the vector. Sorry, the plasmid. So the plasmid and some of them will not have the human growth insulin and the vector. So this is of no importance. There are also others which will have the plasmid, it is there, but which is not carrying the human growth hormone. But then also you will have some that will have the plasmid or the vector plus the human growth insulin. So you have to be able to distinguish between those because this is what you're interested in.
Groups. So there are different ways by which we could select these, maybe by throwing in antibiotic resistance in selective medium, or this gene may be coding for some characters that are visible, or maybe if it is an enzyme, we will be adding some substrate, we will be getting some color in some colonies in which we will be having gene of interest, maybe by Golding hybridization, clotting test, etc. For antibiotic resistance selection in recombinant selective medium, you can refer our video with cloning vectors. Final step is multiply.
Yeah, so if we go a bit behind, we're saying, so for you to be able to know which is the transformed host cell that is carrying your gene of interest, this is where you can decide to use any of these methods to find out. And that's why you remember when we were talking about a vector, we said it has to show some markers to prove that there has been some transformation that has taken place. So you can use antibiotic resistance. You can also look at visible characters, especially when just by looking, you can be able to see which one. You can use assay for biological activity, colony hybridization, blotting test. We are not going to all that, but it's good for you to appreciate.
Medium, you can refer cloning vectors. Final step is multiplication or expression of the introduced gene in the host. So as I mentioned in the first slide, our intention is to make as many copies of that particular gene, or I need to make that gene product to be synthesized inside the bacterium. So we have genetically modified E. coli with our insulin gene, and these plasmids will replicate inside the host, and these bacteria will also replicate, making millions of copies of this particular gene. Our first intention is achieved. We have our gene of interest produced in millions of numbers. Our actual intention was to synthesize insulin inside E. coli. So this is what is happening. This E. coli gene that will be transcribed and translated data protein product synthesized inside the bacterium. So expression, that is insulin is synthesized in bacterium. Now by recombinant DNA technology, insulin is synthesized. The name of that insulin is called humulin. Humulin is synthesized by recombinant technology. Here we are using the same procedure. We are making bacteria as big biofactories for synthesizing human insulin inside. Yeah, so we need to culture these in large scale for getting large scale production of insulin. Hope everything is clear. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, we are happy to hear from you.
Yeah, so I hope that we now appreciate the importance, and it's good that he has used an example with the human insulin gene. So once we can be able to produce a lot of this, then you know what it happens. You can almost, because for people who are diabetic, that means their insulin, they're not producing insulin. There's something wrong with their insulin producing gene. So if you produce many of these and make them into a vaccine and give them to diabetics, then they are able to produce insulin. So I think that's a very, very simple application that starts to make sense to many of us, even those who are not sure at first that they understand all this. I'm glad, because from this, I think we can now start seeing, we can start visualizing it and it can start making sense. Let's go to the next video so that we discuss them together. Are we together? Can you all see the second video, application of recombinant DNA technology? Are we together? Yes. Okay.
Different types of vectors that we use. What is even we talked about the overview, the big picture of recombinant DNA technology and what we exactly do in recombinant DNA technology in molecular cloning. Okay, now this is the second video of the series.
Can't see the video.
About
sorry, can you see the video?
No, we can't see it.
Okay, fine. Let me upload it. Can you see it? Can you see the new video?
Yes.
Okay.
It's visible.
Yes.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome to another video from Shomu's Biology. And in this video tutorial, we'll be talking about vectors. We're mainly talking about recombinant DNA technology. And we started this lecture series. We talked about the overview, the big picture of recombinant DNA technology, and what we exactly do in recombinant DNA technology in molecular cloning. Okay. Now this is the second video of that series, and in this video we'll be talking in detail about vectors. So what are vectors? What are the different types of vectors that we use? What is even the necessity of vectors in molecular cloning? We'll be seeing all these things in this video. So stay tuned and continue to watch this video. So vectors are delivering system of the target gene, right? Vector is a vehicle which will carry your target gene into the host DNA where you want to insert your DNA. Let's say here the target DNA we get it from human genome, and this DNA here is the insulin gene, insulin hormone coding gene. This is the target DNA we want to insert into the host cell, which is E. coli.
Sorry?
We are asking
Mute one device.
What's the problem?
There's an echo in the background.
There is?
You just echo. We have echo, so you can mute one of your device.
Okay, I only have one.
Mute
so let me mute it. Okay.
And let the video.
Make a full screen.
Coli in this case. But we cannot directly cut this gene and put it into the E. coli like that. We need a system to deliver it, because if we put it just a fragment of DNA, it might be degraded by the nuclease enzymes, right? And also another important thing is that we not only need to just insert the DNA inside the host, but we need to insert it in such a way so that the host can replicate it. Host can make multiple copies of the DNA so that we can take out those copies. We can produce many copies of the product, many copies of that gene. And that is the idea of molecular cloning. Cloning means we are preparing multiple number of copies of something like some gene or stuff or product. So here you say that in this case vectors will carry the target DNA of ours. So it's a genetic it's a genetic material which is self-replicating most of the time, which can replicate, or it has the capability of replication. If we put all the replication machinery enzymes like DNA polymerase, helicase and all the enzymes, it can replicate. So that is the idea of a vector. So for example, here we see that we cleave the target DNA and the vector also with a specific enzyme called restriction endonuclease enzyme, and the enzyme should be same for both of them to generate compatible ends so that they can properly bind with themselves. And once the target DNA is bound with the vector, we call it as a recombinant plasmid or a recombinant DNA. Now this recombinant DNA should be inserted into the host cell, and now it's very easy for the host cell to take up this recombinant DNA inside, and then this recombinant DNA will replicate due to the cell division of bacteria. That is the idea. Now let's talk a little bit more details about the vector. That means what are the properties a vector should have, okay, and what are the different types of vector that are available for the molecular cloning. So say here, for a vector to be, it should have the property to carry a segment of target DNA, right? So if I draw a vector, the most common type of vector is bacterial plasmid. The most common type of vector. And if you look at the bacterial plasmid, it's a circular double-stranded DNA capable of self-replication. Why? I mean, how it is capable of self-replication?
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good.
It's capable of self-replication because it has an origin of replication somewhere here. For example, origin of replication. This is very important thing. If a plasmid or if a genetic element does not have an origin of replication, that genetic element cannot replicate itself, and that cannot act as a vector. Okay, so keep it this. This is the first property that a vector should have. So there are three major properties a vector should have. One is the origin of replication. Second thing, it should have a specific region where we can insert our target DNA, right? Because you know, we cannot randomly cleave this vector, because remember, we will treat the target DNA as well as vector with the same restriction endonuclease enzyme. So what we need to have? We need to have a specific segment where we can add, where we can cut the vector and join by adding the target DNA. So it should have a stretch of region where we can cleave it with multiple different types of restriction endonucleases for the cloning. For example, and that particular region is called multiple cloning site or MCS. So second is the multiple cloning site or MCS. Why multiple cloning site? Cloning site is a site where we exactly join the target DNA with the vector. That site is known as a cloning site. Now multiple cloning site, that means, for example, say there is a stretch of nucleotide sequences here placed in such a way so that we can cleave some region here with a restriction enzyme that is EcoR1, for example, or we can also cleave it with another enzyme called HindD3, or we can cleave it with BAMH1. For example, in this plasmid, there are stretch of sequence in such a way in this area in a specific area, stretch of sequences that we can either treat it with EcoR1, we can cleave it. If we treat it with Hindi3, we can also cleave it. We can treat it with BAM-H1, you can also cleave it. But the cleavage points will be different because they have different sequence to recognize, right? So they have different point to cleave, but there will be stretch of sequence for multiple restriction enzymes to cleave. And if it has the ability to use multiple restriction enzymes to cleave, that means it has the ability to produce multiple cloning site, because there will be multiple sites to clone our target DNA. So what it does, it increases the chance of having different target DNA in it. If it only has one restriction endonuclease site, in that case it becomes much more constricted, that we need to treat with that same restriction enzyme only to do the experiment. But if it has multiple cloning site, that vector can be taken kind of in a universal manner, because we can use multiple enzymes.
Okay, I hope you're understanding what he's talking about, the multiple sites of cleavage. He's saying that some plasmids are actually universal. They have multiple cleaving sites, or where you can cut it off, and that makes it easy for someone to use different kinds of different kinds of enzymes to cut it. If you only have one site, one target site, then you're only restricted to one enzyme, one restriction enzyme. And a restriction enzyme, remember, it's for cutting. I just wanted to make that clear. Let's continue.
To do that. So if our target DNA is placed in such a way, we cannot treat it with EcoR1, we can treat Hindi3 to cleave that, and we can easily put it in the same vector that we used to put with EcoR1. That is an advantage, and that's why we want multiple cloning site, stretch of sequences there. And the third important property it should have is called a selectable marker. For example, some place here. Selectable marker. Now, what is selectable marker region? You know what is marker? The idea is, when we use, let's say we have the target DNA and we also have the vector, we apply the same restriction endonuclease both the side, we cleave both of them and we add them to be joined. Now what happens is that not all the time the target DNA is added to the vector, not all the time they join. Sometimes they join to form a recombinant DNA. Sometimes they are unable to join. That is the idea. Sometimes they join, sometimes they don't. So in those cases, when they are unable to be added or to be joined with that vector, we don't want to take those and insert them into the bacteria. We don't want them. We want only those bacterial cell which is carrying our target DNA inside the vector.
I have to stop and tell you guys about Lectio. LECTURI.
So there are three different possibilities, because once we are going on all this process in a reaction mixture where we have our target DNA and we also have, let's say this is our vector, and we cleave it with restriction enzymes, and we add lots of vector and cleaved vector, as well as we add the target DNA, many target DNA. Now what are the possibilities? And we add the ligase enzyme, remember, because after the cleavage with restriction enzyme, to join to DNA segment, we need to add DNA ligase. So once we add the DNA ligase, there are possibilities, three different possibilities. One possibility is that these vectors can self-anneal without even incorporating the target DNA. It is possible. Because it is cleaved, so it can easily join. So this is one thing. So these vectors can self-join. Some of them. Some of them will carry the target. Okay. Sometimes some of the target DNAs can also pair if they have overhang sequences, but very rare. They have majorly these two possibilities. One is a self-joining of the vector. Another one is the recombination. I mean the recombined feature of the vector with the DNA. These are the two possibilities. Okay. So if this is the second thing, that is vector carrying our DNA, it's properly ligated like this. We want to select this type of vectors to be inserted into the host, that is E. coli. But we don't want plasmids, only self-ligated plasmids to be inserted. So after this insertion of these vectors or plasmids inside the E. coli cell, we want to select only those cells, they carry the recombinant DNA only or recombinant plasmid only. How to determine that? We determine that during with the presence of this selectable marker region, which most of the time carries antibiotic resistance gene. So you only select those that have antibiotic resistant region or disruption of antibiotic resistance region. So now what happens? They have an overlapping segment of selectable marker with the multiple cloning site. Just assume that in the selectable marker there is a multiple cloning site, EcoR1 site for example here, and we clone it with EcoR1. So what will happen? If the gene of interest is inserted, it will be inserting here. So it will disrupt this antibiotic resistance. For example, the antibiotic resistance was ampicillin resistant. Now due to the incorporation of the DNA, this ampicillin resistant gene is disrupted. So the function of ampicillin resistance property will not be present there, right? So if we plate this bacterial cells, what will you find? Is there one plate? If you plate it in presence of ampicillin resistant, in place of ampicillin, I mean the plate is filled with ampicillin antibiotic, you will see those bacteria, those plasmids which are self-ligated will grow, the bacteria with the self-ligated plasmid. But those bacteria with the recombinant plasmid will not grow, right? This is the thing. Or we can also use, this is one example of using antibiotic resistance as a selectable marker. We can use multiple things as a selectable markers. Nowadays many things came to play. We can add some fluorescence tag or molecule producing fluorescence enzyme producing thing, can produce something that can give us some coloration. With the help of that coloration we can understand that whether our gene is inserted or not. There are multiple ways to determine, but they should have this selectable marker region inside. Okay. So once we know this stuff about vectors, so every vector that we're going to talk about should have these three properties at least. And these vectors that we're talking about, they belonging to the cloning purpose, right? The gene cloning. So we call them cloning vectors. There are two types of vectors based on how they are used. First type is called as a cloning vectors. Second type called as a expression vectors. So let me talk about them also. But remember, cloning vectors should have these properties for the expression. Okay. Now in this case, if it's a plasmid, because we talk, or all these things that we talked about is about plasmids as a vector. Now if you use plasmid as a vector, as a cloning vector, in that case the plasmid should be inserted into the bacterial cell, the host cell, so that the cell can replicate it. So how to insert this plasmid into the host cell? The way for, if we use plasmid, the way to insert it into the host cell is by the process called transformation. Bacterial transformation. What is transformation? Transformation is a natural process with which bacteria uptake DNA segment inside from external environments. So we we put this plasmid, the recombinant plasmids obviously, into the bacterial culture mix. The bacteria slowly start to take up. But the process of bacterial uptake is very slow. So what we need to do, we need to induce that a little bit with the treatment of calcium chloride. We treat this bacterial culture with calcium chloride, and after this treatment, the bacterial cell become much more effective to take all those recombinant plasmids inside. Okay, that is the idea of how this whole process works. Okay, and then it will uptake it inside, and then it will be replicated after the cell division. Each cell division, the plasmid will be replicated in multiple copies. This is the way how vectors work. Okay, now if I talk about the different types of vectors, except for plasmid, different types, I told you about the two major types of vectors. One is the cloning vectors, cloning and expression. Cloning vector and expression vector. What is a cloning vector? Cloning vector is a vehicle of gene delivery system which is used only for cloning purpose. That means for the development of multiple copies of the same gene. But while expression vectors are different, expression vectors are mainly used for expression of a gene inside the host cell. Here we want is plasmid vector or this cloning vectors. We just want the cell to get the DNA, to get our target DNA. Remember, not the vector. We want to insert our target DNA. This vector is a vehicle only to deliver it. Okay, and it has the origin of replication, so it can replicate our target DNA also. Right? That is the idea in cloning, replication only. But in case of expression vector, we want not only replication, then after that transcription and translation of those products. We want protein synthesis to be happened so that the products are produced inside the cell. That is the idea of expression vector. So expression vector is a little bit more complicated, and it contains some more varieties of things in the plasmid, in the vector, some more regions in the vector, some other regions in the vector. So we'll be talking about that. In cloning vector, these are the three stuffs that should be present. But in expression vector, there will be some extra stuff should be present. Like there should be the presence of a transcription activation sequence, a transcription initiation site. There should be obviously presence of a promoter. It is very, very important. Why you require a promoter? To start transcription, we definitely require a promoter region. So expression vector should have a promoter along with all this. They should have all this, except for that they need some extra elements in the gene, and that is one is a promoter. Second is a transcription start and stop site and stop sequence. It should have the transcription start and stop, and obviously translational start and stop in the mRNA for the whole process to occur properly. And also we need to add some tag sequences. Tag can be histidine tag sequences or GST tag sequences. What is a tag sequence? A sequence which is specific to bind with some bait proteins. That means, you know, the idea of expression vector or use of expression vector is to produce the product of the gene in multiple copies. So once you produce this product, it will be a protein. So once there are a lot of proteins in the environment,
Are we together? Are you understanding or you are lost?
We are together indeed.
Are you understanding?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we are.
So are you okay? Can we continue?
Yes, madam.
Indeed.
Okay. Sawa sawa.
you need to take out the specific proteins you need. You need to fish out the proteins. How to do that? We need to use some technique to fish it out. That's why we need a tag. Tag means a repeated sequence which can be identified by some technique to get it. So that's why we add some tag sequences there, so that after the protein is made, we can fish out the proteins very easily. These are some other things that is required in an expression vector, along with origin of replication, multiple cloning site, and the selective marker, which is very common for only cloning vectors. These are the difference between both of them. Now, if we talk about cloning vectors only, because I'm not going to talk in details about the expression vector here, I'll only talk about the cloning vectors in slightly more details. What are the types, other examples of some cloning vector? Examples of some cloning vector, first example is plasmid that I already talked about, how to deliver and stuff. The advantage of plasmid is that it is very effective. It can be replicated very, very fast. So you can get a lot of number of the plasmid DNA in very few amount of time. That's a very advantageous thing. But there is a disadvantage with plasmid also. The disadvantage is its size, because you know not all the host cell can get the same type of vector. Host cell has a capability of having or attaining a specific length of DNA only, right? And if we add a plasmid, plasmid can carry a specific length of DNA only. If we increase the target DNA above that range, plasmid will not be able to capable of transferring it. Plasmid will be disintegrated, plasmid will be unstabilized. And that is the problem of plasmid, because the limit of which it can carry the DNA is less. The size, the length of the DNA should be smaller for a plasmid to carry, because plasmid itself is smaller and it can carry small segment of DNA, not bigger one. That is one problem with DNA plasmid. Otherwise, rest of the things are fine. This is the problem. They have a copy number is good and everything is fine, but this is the problem. So I talked about that. So the first thing was plasmid. We use plasmid to clone genes in the host cell in bacteria like E. coli and stuff. So most of the cases we cannot clone large genes using plasmid. You know, we talked about cloning the insulin gene. Actually, insulin is not a big protein. It's a very small protein. So in that case, we can carry the gene for that. We can easily carry with plasmid maximum, but not the other genes. If we talk about large gene segments, say the complete genome of human being, though none of the plasmid can carry, none of the vectors can carry the complete set. We need to cleave it and then carry, but still it's not good to use plasmid for cloning the complete genome of human being. So for the large segments, we have different options. Like we can add cosmid. Cosmid and plasmid is slightly same kind of stuff. They carry smaller fragments. Cosmid also carries smaller fragments. For the medium fragments to carry, we have a phage vector. And for much more DNA, much bigger DNA to carry, we have bacterial artificial chromosome and yeast artificial chromosome. These are the major type of plasmids and examples that you are going to find when you studying these topics in your book. You see, plasmid, I talked about it. Cosmid, what is cosmid? Cosmid is slight variations of plasmid vector. Cosmid means a plasmid with cos site. What is cos site? You know, cos site is a specific site that is found in the bacteriophage, right? Lambdaphage. If we talk about lambdaphage and how lambdaphage packages its genome, it's kind of thing, say it has a genome and there are cos sites present. So what happens normally, there are two ways to package genome. One is that you synthesize complete copies of your genome and put them into the phage head particle and then put it out. But bacteriophage lambda, what they did actually, it's a different thing. What they do here is they generally do not break their genome. They do not complete their genome. Upon each completion, they continue to produce the number of copies, and they are all joined together, linked together. They are not cleaved. But what happens after each of this end segment, there is a site called cos site present. The idea of cos site is that they will bring such two cos sites near to each other and forming a loop. say, two cos sides together and forming a loop. So now once they form this loop, from this cos side, they will slowly join or cleave. After this cleaving, this DNA becomes circular and the other portion remains like that. And then again, they will form another loop, and the segment between two cos sides is packaged into the bacterial phage head, and then it will be out. This is the idea of bacteriophage lambda, because phage vector means we use lambda phage as a vector. Okay, so here cosmid, in this case, cosmid carries the plasmid. The whole things are present: origin of replication, MCS, selective marker, all these things. Along with it has a cos site. Why it has a cos site? Because cosmid has a variety. It has much more flexibility for delivering the vector into the host cell. In plasmid, there is only one way, that is bacterial transformation to do that. But in case of cosmid, we can do either bacterial transformation like a plasmid, or we can mediate this cosmid mediated process to deliver it through bacteriophage to infect other bacterial cell. That's how it's slightly different. What is a phagemid vector? Phagemid vector, it's phage vector, not phagemid. Phagemid is also another kind of vector. I'm not going to talk too much here. But phage vector is a lambda phage vector. Lambda phage vector means we take the gene segment of bacteriophage lambda, and what we do, we modify it very much, because lambda phage is harmful for bacteria. What it does,
I have to stop and tell you guys about Lecturio.
LECTUR.
it normally insert itself. It can do the lytic cycle and lysogenic cycle. Both the cycles it is capable of doing. That means it can incorporate its own DNA inside the bacterial cell, inside the bacterial chromosome, or it can make the lytic cycle and cleave out from the bacterial cell. So it can do all the stuff. So what we want to do here, we don't want it to go for the lytic cycle. We cleave its all lytic cycle machinery, we turn it off. We only turn its lysogenic cycle on because we know the lambda genome very well and the molecular biology behind lambda genome very well. So we can modulate that very much. So once you modulate that thing, the lambda genome, and how this whole process and whole thing work, we simply tweak this thing, and we only want this lysogenic cycle to achieve. So what it happens once we put it into the lambda phage, and also it has the cos site, we can put our DNA inside, and it has its own replication site and all the stuff. And even if it don't have its own replication site, after the lysogenic phase, the lysogenic condition, it will be inserted to the bacterial chromosome. So bacteria can bacteria can replicate its own chromosome. During that time, it will automatically replicate our target gene, which is inserted into the bacteriophage genome. So that's how we can easily achieve this task, right? So multiple things can be achieved with only one example, that is phage vector. We use this vector, and also it can infect bacterial cell. So we don't require any other stage like transformation. We don't require any other stage like inserting our gene and thinking of whether it's inserted or not. If the lysogenic cycle works properly, the whole thing will work smoothly. That is for the phage vector. And another extra advantage of phage vector is that it can carry slightly bigger sequences, as well as the cDNA library preparation. Bacterial artificial chromosome is another one, and yeast artificial chromosome. These are the two things that are carried out for the delivery of large bacterial artificial chromosome is a bacterial segment, bacterial chromosome. It's big, so the carrying capacity for this bacterial artificial chromosome is also big, so as yeast artificial chromosome. Okay, Yeast artificial chromosome is derived from the yeast cell. It's a chromosome of yeast with the centromere and telomere region present. And also it presents the origin of replication and all the stuff. And it carries a huge, the carrying capacity is very, very huge. I mean, 10 to 20 times compared with the plasmids. So it can carry large eukaryotic DNA segments. And another extra advantage of yeast artificial chromosome is that it can carry the large eukaryotic segment, but it can express them. It can express them in eukaryotic cell directly, because yeast is also a eukaryotic cell. So it can easily do that in the eukaryotic system, right? So we do the eukaryotic gene cloning, large gene cloning with yeast artificial chromosomes, as well as we can do that with bacterial artificial chromosomes also. And both of them plays a very, very vital role in all these purposes. Okay, so that in a sense is the different types of cloning vectors that we use. And every of these have their advantage, have their disadvantages, but ultimately we use them depending upon our usage, what gene we need to clone, what is the length of this DNA, and also how to deliver this DNA. So think of all this stuff, and then we decide to deliver this. And we
Okay, I think that was very comprehensive. I didn't want to go in so much into the plasmids, but I think it was useful just to listen to that lecture and just see how important plasmids are. Some of the other characteristics that I did not get into, especially like the origin of replication, multiple cloning sites, and selectable markers, very, very important characteristics on top of the others that I had given you. He's also talked about two different kinds of vectors, the cloning vectors, the expression vector. We were mostly dealing with the cloning vectors, but I think once now you want to go into application, then you want the expression vector, where you'll also be able to produce the proteins that are important or that are of interest. So I think the cloning vectors, I think for us we stop at plasmid, but it's good to appreciate there are others. There's cosmid, there's phage vector, the BSC and YAC. So I think these two videos that we have watched have further helped you understand and make it very, very clear. So I don't know whether there's anyone who is still stuck and does not know what this lecture was about. And also I want to advise you, whenever we are listening to a video, make sure you're also taking notes, because I'm also taking notes. So I know this is part of classwork. This is examinable. There are those I tell you don't bother with this, but those that are important, make sure you're taking notes or just also building up on your own personal knowledge. So is there anyone who is still lost? So there's that person, I forget whether it was Anyoso who had asked a question. Are they still in?
Yes, madam, I'm still in.
Are you still lost?
No, I have some clue now. I'm okay.
So that's what I was encouraging you. We first of all watch the videos, and then after that, then it's going to become even more and more clear. So I think I want to stop there for today if we don't have any other question for now. But I'm suggesting that we have the next class today from 1 to 3 o'clock. Is that okay? Hello?
Hello, madam. It's me, Diana. To me, suggest we have tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a public holiday, my dear.
Tomorrow but one.
tomorrow, but no, tomorrow is a public holiday, so we can't do it. What originally we agreed, and this is adjustments, we agreed that we are trying to put our classes in Monday and Tuesday, and that's what I have done, so that I can leave the rest of the week free. So, and I agreed to that. That's why